When it comes to investing in real estate, nothing seems more important than property management because that really translates to asset management. When we talk about real property management or RPM, this is one of Rain's trusted partners. And today I'm joined by Lee Carter of the Cambridge division or the Cambridge franchise of real property management, who is actually an expert on asset management, your asset management. Decisions need to be made, and we can do that with a compassion, what we'll call compassionate capitalism. Lee, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Patrick, for having me on.
So I'm excited to talk to you because we've got we're getting really specific with RPM in terms of now you work the Cambridge and area. Give me a little bit of your kind of geographic range that you manage.
So my home base is Cambridge. We reach to Kitchener, Waterloo, out through Guelph, and then we'll go down to Hamilton and London. So it's a pretty large catchment. I try to drive within an hour of my space.
That's great. So first off, let's talk about, property management versus asset management. And I know that really RPM looks at property management as asset management. And I love that shift of languaging. Give us a little bit of background in how you see it and how you take that asset management and expand it to your clients so that they really understand what exactly you do.
Yeah. So from our perspective, asset management really encompasses looking at the whole picture of what a property and investment does. It's like, when you've got a financial advisor looking at the money markets, making sure the money that you park in there continues to grow and not just be stagnant, and continues to shift and finds the best um, criteria or objective, and creates a strategy based on that. So when we look at it from our perspective, we're not just looking at after your property and making sure the tenant's great, whatever. That's part of our job. But we're really looking at the whole asset in general and seeing how can we position it and continue to maintain it and add value to it so that that asset continues to grow and not just stay stagnant and decrease as tenants are utilizing it and abusing it. So we want to make sure that wherever our investors are parking their money in real estate, that it continues to grow. And we advise them with that in creating plans on CapEx expenditures and creating really a roadmap to ensure that their asset grows.
It's interesting that I have worked with thousands of real estate investors over the past 25 years. And, time and again, I'm having conversations with individuals who are maybe they're self managing and they're looking at it, they're going against hiring a property manager because it's a cost. We're talking about 8%, 10%, 12% of rent. And they look at that and they go, no, that will turn me upside down in terms of cash flow. Now I have my own view of that, and I'll share my view of it, and then maybe you can kind of expand on what you would say. I have conversations with individuals and I look at it and I say, although you look at it as an expense and it feels like your cash flow is going to be less because it's eaten up whatever the number is, 2, 3, $500 a month, whatever the number is, regardless, there are some fundamentals that most individuals just do not have the infrastructure, the, I guess, connections and or the operating, the way of operating that screens tenants exceptionally well, that is actually on top of what current market rents are and how to get those rents increased. And I see that many investors are actually leaving money on the table. So the money that they're saving is actually costing them in the long run because they could, in fact, have professional property management or asset management, get current market rents, make sure they're getting the right tenants. And that comes from the expertise that real property management brings to it, the infrastructure, the connections right across the country. Now, I don't want to take away or steal your thunder in this, but what would you add to that? How would you add to that, if at all?
I think what you've covered there is pretty great because asset managers, property managers, good asset managers bring a wealth of knowledge, experience, and a whole team behind them. That's why, if you're a real estate investor, you need to have a team. And, it's not just your lawyer, it's not just your accountant, it's not just your mortgage person. A property manager has to be up there front and center because if as investors are looking at new assets, yeah, it might seem like it's costly when you're just looking at the bottom line, But if you're interested in a property and you bring a property manager along, they can tell you where the future pitfalls may be in that area, where the rents are going, how that area is really looking, and making sure that you're acquiring, first of all, an asset that will appreciate and they can create opportunity for that. And then in that conversation, a good asset manager will also show you and expose you to different ways to create that asset. When you're just a mom and pop that's doing it on your own, you don't necessarily have the experience and the knowledge to see where you can expand and grow. And all you're doing is plugging holes here, there, everywhere, and taking your eyes off the long term goal of what you really are setting out to do. So bring on an asset manager that can do the long picture, go for the long game, and set you up to succeed. It's gonna in the and on the month, if you're just looking at the bottom line, it might hurt, but in the long run, that asset continues to grow, and you're really farther ahead and probably avoided a lot more legal pitfalls, physical pitfalls of that tenancy pitfalls that with an asset manager than you would on your own.
Well, I think there's a fundamental understanding here that when you talk about asset management, you really have to look at it from helping your clients be profitable. You know, what
Mhm.
you said there tweaks or twigs something in my brain, which is to say that many of the individuals who do their own management are often reactive. In other words, it's kind of like management by fire. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. If I don't hear anything, then I'm good. But you, because RPM is national in scope, you're getting insights and gaining knowledge from a whole group of people across the country. So you're seeing trends. And although those trends may not necessarily apply to Cambridge, as an example, there is some fundamentals that do, which is to say that I'm going to use this as an example. I'd like you to kind of give me your insights on it. Is that when we look at the demographic, when we look at what we call clients, which are our tenants, and if we treat them like clients, it changes the relationship. Then so the question for you is probably twofold. Number one, are you very proactive in your communication with your with tenants in terms of how you represent your clients called the property owners? Number one. And number two is that when we look at what's happening and understanding the demographic, are you proactive in saying, given this demographic, you could take this property and, for example, make it more work from home friendly, as an example, giving the neighborhood, given the home, given the property type? Are those the kind of adjustments that you would and recommendations that you make?
Yeah, there's always different recommendations as I'm talking to both clients and investors themselves. Looking at different areas, the demographics, like there's so much that comes into play when talking to them about ensuring we meet their goals as we work together and talk together. So, with the clients in the demographics where their current investments are, exposing them to different opportunities and where different avenues of revenue growth, potential change shifts maybe in where they've originally been thinking, and why exposing them to this new clientele base might expand that and create better returns for them.
Mhm.
So it's about being able to talk to them, understanding what the clients for the investors' comfort levels are, and being able to expose them and expands their mind with data driven by our connection across the country and looking at all the demographics and all of those stats, being able to expose them to different opportunities that might exist that they might not have considered, and that's part of what asset management brings,
All right.
exposing them to new ideas. Um, and then with tenants themselves, with the clients, it's also about a lot of communication. Everything comes down to communication. If you don't communicate, there's going to be more tire fires than you want. So open communication and honest communication with them about whatever, depending on how comfortable the investor is open to telling them, but
Mhm.
being honest with them about the state of where they are, where they're looking at, why this area is a great place to live, why their specific demographic is perfect for this location. So all of that comes into play only with the team behind RPM, the infrastructure that exists, and the many connections, relationships, with Rain, different organizations, Single Key that we might have.
Mhm.
that's the only reason why we're able to bring such insight to our clients.
So you're not new to the game. So let's talk a little bit about your specific business of RPM in Cambridge. I think you call it RPM Hestia. Well, tell me a little bit of what is Hestia.
So Hestia, as I understood, and when we were mulling through different names, we wanted to create something that both our investors understood and our clients, the tenants themselves, could really relate to. And so when we looked at it, we were looking at, we came up with Hestia because as we understand it, it's the goddess of homes. And
Mm,
so we wanted our clients to feel at home and make, wherever they reside, their home, make it their comfortable, their safe place. So we want them to enjoy their space, and we also wanted investors to understand that what they're doing is creating a home for their own clients as well. So
mm.
have this create change the shift in mentality between landlord and tenant, and create a more positive relationship. So that's kind of the goal with where we landed with RPM Hestia.
Beautiful. And then on top of that, I mean, again, as a business owner, you kind of understand business, but you're also a big part of the community. You have a foundation, you have a fund, you look at taking profitability and spreading it within your own foundation. Tell me a little bit about that because you're philanthropic in your view of the world. Give us a little bit of insights into that.
Yeah, at the core of who we are, both Melissa and myself, is philanthropy. We have a desire to be able to change the community that we live in, help improve the lives around us, which is part of why I enjoy property management and real estate investing, because it's a upfront way to invest in people's lives and help change some people's lives. So with through RPM Hestia and through the other investments that we do,
Mhm.
we drive that through our foundation and ensure that we partner with organizations locally and internationally that are
Mhm.
effective in creating change within their own communities. We want a better life in Canada, for not for ourselves, but for our next generations and those around us and our neighbors and our friends and for strangers we don't even know. But that's kind of our goal, is to create that. And then maybe at some point they become investors and we work with them, and down the road. But at the end of the day, we want to help change lives.
Love it. Now, RPM has been a trusted partner of the Real Estate Investment Network for a long time. They bring such a huge value to the community in terms of the insights and the updates. As we wind this down, what would be some final words, or is there anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to share with listeners today?
Uh, there's nothing that we haven't covered. I think the main thing that I always, whenever I'm talking to investors, is build your team. You're only as successful
Mm,
as your teams that you have built
yeah,
around you.
sure.
So, you know, get your lawyer, get your accountant, get your mortgage person, have a real realtor that understands the industry that you're trying to get into, but have a real property manager that understands investing, has done it themselves, understands the woes that you're going through, so that when you're not getting a rent check, your rent that month, they understand that pain. And so they're driven to make sure it succeeds. So yeah, the biggest key for, I think, real estate investors to succeed is ensuring they have a complete team that's looking out for their asset.
Beautiful, wise words. RPM is definitely in it to win it for you as an investor. Reach out to Lee and his team and make sure that you get the asset management that you need. RPM is a trusted partner of the Real Estate Investment Network for a reason. Lee, thanks for your time today. Thanks for sharing some insights with us.
Thanks a lot for having me, Patrick.